I feel extremely honored to be present here, especially on the invitation of Ambedkar King Study Circle and India Civil Watch. And very coincidentally, today is 2nd October, Mahatma Gandhi's birth anniversary. And probably these are the people, the individuals, the great figures like Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Ambedkar, and these are the two who really gave a direction to the democracy in India. And of course, Pandit Nehru as the first Prime Minister. And probably that's the reason. And they really enshrined the views of democracy, liberalism, so, fraternity in the constitution, and probably, and also the safeguards to ensure that India remains a democratic, liberal society. And that probably that's the reason why these individuals are at the target of the right-wing political parties and the right-wing organizations who say that, especially organizations like RSS, who technically say that that's a cultural organization. But at the same time, the formation of RSS right from the day one and the functioning of RSS right from day one until today is for making India a Hindu Rashtra. And that is essentially a political motive. That's a political action. And but despite that, they call themselves that as a cultural organization. So it is not a cultural organization which does and conducts military training, entire operation extremely covered, extreme secrecy, and now India is at the crossroads whether it will remain a democratic socialist republic or it will turn into a fanatic religious authoritarian structure. And that is again because for the first time, probably in 2014, their political view got the majority in Indian Parliament, the 282 seats that they won, and along with the alliance partners. Right now, they are ruling in almost 22 states, either the BJP or BJP with alliance in alliance with their regional parties. So, and the political situation, the social situation in India right now is really at a stage when we can say that if they return to power in 2019, that could be the last elections in India. And so it is truly a situation where we have either it is a do or die, now or never situation for every liberal, democratic, secular person in an organization and political parties in India. And that is the reason probably why I genuinely feel that everybody needs to unite. And because right from the day that the government was forming, we have seen first its political leaders belonging to the ruling party started a campaign called Ghar Wapsi, if you remember. And that was forced convergence of people who are in the minority, people from Muslim community or Christian community or others. And it is actually, if you look back and compare it with some historical incidences, it was Savarkar who had started this Shuddhi ritual to purify and convert Muslims and Christians and people from scheduled castes to Hindu religion. And he named that ritual as Shuddhi, in which a yajna would be performed and a thread will be worn on the individual. And Savarkar used to say that now he's pure, he should. So essentially, and despite that, all the followers of Savarkar keep saying, and he himself also kept saying that he is an atheist and a man with scientific rationale. So, but these contradictions are there. I mean, how can an atheist and a person who believes in scientific rational mindset create a ritual of sort to purify people, which also means that essentially you believe that people are impure by birth. I mean, he in fact started the temple in his hometown, Ratnagiri, which he named as Patit Pawan Mandir. And that temple was meant for scheduled castes. He did not open existing temples for the those scheduled castes, but started a separate temple for scheduled castes and named it as Patit Pawan Mandir. Means he believed that people from those communities are essentially born patit, impure, and after coming to that temple they will be purified, they will become power. So this shuddhi in its 2014 avatar was Garbhavsi, and people were forced to convert into Hindu religion. There were rituals conducted, and actually everybody knows for a fact I am also an accidental Hindu by birth, and everybody is, in his religion by accident. At least in Hindu religion, you cannot convert into Hindu religion. There is no procedure as such available where somebody can become a Hindu from other religion. You have to be born into a Hindu family to be a Hindu. But this new invention by Savarkar in the 20s, and its new or latest avatar in the 2040 called Garbhavsi started converting people into Hindu religion. We also have seen a Hindu World Congress happening in Chicago in September 7th, 8th, and 9th. And it also said that the Congress is held here to spread Hindu religion. Now, when there is no procedure available to expand Hindu religion by any religious process, and there is no point in giving this logic that the Congress is held in Chicago to spread Hindu religion. And ironically, I remember Vivekanand addressing in the same Chicago in 1917 in a World Religious Conference, where he addressed people and religious leaders from across the world, from across all the religions, as brothers and sisters. So his idea of religion was probably an inclusive idea, but what we experienced in Chicago was an exclusive idea of Hindu religion. So that was one thing. Another thing, of course, I do not agree with number of things that Vivekanand was following. For example, the saffron robes that he used to wear, and he used to call himself rational. And in Sanskrit, it is called as Buddhi Brahmanyavad. So, uh, Buddhi Brahmanyavad uh, or a rationalist wearing a particular color of robes of particular color, doesn't go together. There is no scientific rationale in wearing and promoting a particular robes of particular color or clothes of particular color. But and there are so many such contradictions in the Hindu religion that I mean, one can only wonder and surprise that how could this religion fool people for thousands of years. But that's true, and it happened. Uh, so we saw this. actually Ghar Wapsi happening, and the violence doing that happened afterwards. The churches in Delhi and around were attacked. The Catholic schools in Delhi and around were attacked. Uh, the, the priests working there were attacked, molested, and it was actually after Barack Obama who had visited India and he talked about the growing religious intolerance that the Prime Minister had to issue a statement that all these incidences should stop. Until then, the attacks continued. The perpetrators who were doing it were protected, and then came a phase of lynchings. That is the worst phase after those incidences of Garwapsi. And as we know, Akhlaq was the first one to get lynched, and that's publicly what we know. Akhlaq was the first one to get lynched. The announcement and, uh, and the provocations were made from the loudspeaker on the temple in the village. People were asked to gather there, and on the suspicion of Akhlaq having possessing beef in his refrigerator. And Akhlaq's son is an Indian Air Force officer, but Akhlaq was lynched to death, and the accused were arrested after a lot of controversy, propaganda, and media coverage. But one of the accused died in the jail because of his health problems. And after his death, the most shameful thing that has ever happened is that his body was wrapped in a tricolor. It was brought to his home in procession, and the funeral was attended by none other but the cultural minister of India and Mahesh Sharma. And that sort of gave a signal across the country to these fanatics that your acts of killing people uh, for possessing beef essentially to create deep hatred among two religions will be protected, will be honored, and even the union government stands with you. So that gave a rise to the incidences of lynching, and over 100 people have got lynched. Uh, in fact, after that, actually, we were talking earlier, but after that, there was a demand made by a Shiv Sena MP from Maharashtra, and he said he demanded to the central government to confer Savarkar with the highest civilian award, Bharat. And I belong to the same city. Nasik is my hometown from where Savarkar also had come. And I thought that this is the right time to revisit this. And I did a story after huge research. I mean, I dug out thousands of documents from the National Archives in Delhi, the Nehru Memorial Library archives, audio and visual archives, in the National Library in Kolkata, or the Indian archives in London. And what I came across was a fact which I wrote about with a title called A Lamb Lionized. That's how I saw him. Uh, he was essentially a lamb, but its supporters lionized his image. The man who submitted 6 personal mercy petitions, apart from the general amnesty, applications for general amnesty, 6 personal mercy petitions. And he was a prolific writer, a master of words, and his other literature or poetry, you can actually visualize things. So similar are his mercy petitions. In one of the mercy petitions, he writes that where else will the prodigal son turn but to the merciful doors of the parental government? And I beg to remain your most obedient servant. That's what he wrote. it was not once, it was 6 times. The first mercy petition was submitted within 2 months of its getting imprisoned in the cellular jail. And again, the propaganda is that he had to undergo an imprisonment for 21 years, but the fact, or 25 years, but the fact is that he was there for 9 years and 10 months, from 4th July 1911 to 2nd of May 1920, 21. The second thing which I came to know is, apart from that, he was never put on an oil. And in his autobiography, he has described how he was made to work like an animal, work like a bull for hours together just to produce that quantity of oil on the oil mill. But according to the jail ticket history maintained for every prisoner in cellular jail, and according to the jail ticket history of Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, I found that he was not put on the oil mill even for a day, even for one day. So that was one very shocking thing, because I had read his autobiography a number of times. Then another fact was that he had written an extremely interesting story that the prisoners had developed a language of handcuffs, and they used to beat their handcuffs in a particular frequency to send messages across the 7 yards of cellular jail. And it had really caught my imagination that how because I am by education I am an engineer, electronics engineer. So I thought that how somebody must have developed it, how somebody must have, after developing it, how somebody must have taught it to all the 696 prisoners, because every word, if that jail map is, if you see, all the yards are back to back, so no prisoner gets to see a single prisoner from the other yard. But then, despite that, how this must have happened? So I tried and got 9 autobiographies of the revolutionaries who were incarcerated in the cellular jail in the same during the same period, and none of them have even mentioned it. And and had it been a reality, it was definite that somebody must have, should have written about it, but nobody mentioned about it. Even his young elder brother didn't mention about it. So it was a complete false thing just to catch the imagination of the reader. And after that, from 1924 to 1947, he was the one who received monthly pension from the British government. He was the only one to receive monthly pension from the British government for the services probably known to him and the British Empire. That's all. Nobody else knows for what reason he received monthly pension. And I remember my grandfather used to tell me, he died in 1986 at the age of 96. And he used to tell me that when he got married in 1980, the price of gold was 18 rupees for a tola for 10 grams. And he was receiving the monthly pension of 60 rupees. And he used to write to the governor and the district collectors to raise his monthly pension. So that correspondence was available in the archives. And then he signed an agreement with the Viceroy in Mexico that, and he wrote, to fulfill the common objectives of the British Empire and the Hindu Nationalism, I will dedicate my rest of the life in opposing Congress, Gandhi, and Muslims. So that was an agreement in writing, and he did spend his life like that afterwards.
So he was getting pension for that?
Yeah, probably.
While he was out of jail?
Yes, yes.
That's how he got there.
Yeah. So, and that came as a shocker. But I wrote that story with a title called A Lamb Lionized. And I think it was almost decided at that time that he would be conferred with the highest civilian award. But the story came and it became so controversial. And my first experience with the trolls was after the story got published. And they were abusing me, threatening me, they were abusing and threatening my family. And it went on for months. And actually, I was in Pune discussing on an assignment. And in a restaurant, I was sitting with one of my friends there in Chennai. And we were discussing about this our story, Jai Chennai, Manas program. These were my friends. And the next day, Jayan came with one of his friends. And she told me that she wants me to write about uh, the death of her uncle. And she was Nupur Biyani, niece of Judge Loya. And so we sat in the lobby, and she started describing me how the entire thing happened because she was living with her uncle, Mama, when she was studying in Mumbai. And her Mama used to confide in her at number of times that how he is under pressure, how he is getting threats, how he is getting offers of bribe. And but he used to say that this case is going to decide my reputation as well. And how can I take a decision without verifying the 22,000 page long charge sheet at least once? So I just can't do that. But as we know, Sohrabuddin's fake encounter case was under trial in the CBI Special Court in Mumbai. And actually, uh, Supreme Court had specifically ordered that only one judge will preside over the entire case. And but Judge Utpat, who was the original first judge, he used to insist that the accused has to remain present in court. And because all other accused were in jail, all other IPS officers, police officers who were accused in that fake encounter were in jail, and it was not uh, the encounter only of Sohrabuddin Shaikh. Sohrabuddin was killed. Sohrabuddin's wife was raped and burned. Uh, Sohrabuddin's friend, Tulsi Prajapati, who was a witness to the abduction of the couple, was also shot dead in hours after producing him before the court. And but he was shot dead. So it was essentially a case that was covering the murders of three individuals. So all police officers were in jail. Amit Shah was granted bail by the Gujarat High Court, and he was in fact banished or externed from the state. He was not allowed to enter Gujarat. And so Utpat was insisting that the accused should remain present. And one day he said that if the accused doesn't turn up for the next hearing, then he will be forced to issue an arrest warrant. And hours before, literally hours before uh, the, the hearing, Judge Utpat was transferred. And Judge Loya was appointed as to preside over the case. And it was in June. The BJP was at the center in May 2014. And it was in June that Loya was appointed. And afterwards, I mean, I saw many documents. I interviewed the family members, and what I came to know from them is that he was under pressure right from day one. And he was offered a bribe of 100 crore rupees to give a favorable decision. Uh, he was also kept under pressure. The Chief Justice himself used to call him even late in the night to his house, and used to insist that give a favorable order as early as possible. They wanted it before 30th of December for some political reason. Amit Shah wanted to be continue as the president of BJP when the elections in Bihar were to happen. So they didn't want probably the stigma of being an accused. So he was kept under pressure. And of course, Judge Loya had granted the leave petition of Amit Shah, he had granted and allowed him to remain absent in the court proceedings because he was a political leader. But the trial was going on, and but Amit Shah's lawyers filed a discharge petition in his court, and he said that it was on the 31st October that there was a hearing in the CBI Special Court. And in his order, while granting the leave petition, he had said that the accused will have to remain present whenever he is in Mumbai, and if there is a trial date on the same day. And it was on the 31st October that Amit Shah was in Mumbai to attend the swearing-in ceremony of the newly elected BJP government in Maharashtra. And Amit Shah was present there. And on the same day, there was a hearing in the court. And Judge Loya said that why the accused is not present when he is 1.5 kilometers away from the court. And he said that the next hearing will be on the 15th December. And if you want me to take up your petition for discharge for hearing, then the accused should remain present. On the 29th November, two of his colleagues, Judge Modak and Kulkarni was registrar in the Bombay High Court, and Modak was a sessions court judge. So they came to his office and they said that one of our friend's daughter is getting married in Nagpur and we are in invitation and we have reserved seats for you. We have done all the booking, so you come with us. He was not prepared. He had not planned for it. So he called his wife to send his bag, and his wife also got surprised because otherwise he was a very organized person. He would plan things in advance. But she asked him to send it. He asked her to send the bag. So she sent the bag and he traveled with them to Nagpur. On the 30th November, in the morning, he attended the wedding. In the evening, he attended the wedding reception. And he came back to Ravi Bhavan, which is a VVIP guest house in Nagpur. Nagpur is a second capital of Maharashtra, where the winter session of the assembly happens. So VVIP, it's a VVIP guest house where only judges, IPS officers, and governors stay. So he was put up there. He called his wife at 11 in the night. He spoke to her for 43 minutes. It was at 5:30 in the morning when the family started receiving calls from Nagpur, and they were informed that Judge Loya died in the night. His postmortem is over, and his body has been sent to his birthplace, Gategaon, in Latur district. Now, the two individuals who had taken him from Mumbai to Nagpur were also living in the same colony where Judge was living. Loya was living in Mumbai. So they knew that Loya's family is in Mumbai. But despite that, the body was sent to the ancestral home in Gategaon where nobody was staying at that time. And it is 650 kilometers away from Mumbai. And a remote place, completely remote place. But this was done to probably avoid the media attention, which otherwise it would have attracted had the body reached Mumbai. So it was sent to Gategaon, and the family was informed and asked to travel to Gategaon. And very surprisingly, nobody accompanied his body. It was only the ambulance driver who took the body of a CBI Special Court judge for a distance of over 400 kilometers from Nagpur to Latur. The family reached there, and judge had 5 sisters. One of that was Anuradha Biyani, who gave me a very detailed video interview. And so after actually what happened is, the funeral was conducted. Anuradha Biyani saw that the respects of Judge Loya were stuck below his neck. And she was extremely surprised because all the personal belongings, it's a rule that all the personal belongings of the deceased are listed, sealed, and kept in a separate bag, and the bag is separately handed over to the family. But the specs were stuck below the neck, and there was no reason because the postmortem was conducted, and at the time of postmortem, it was expected that the doctor would remove his spectacles and keep it aside in that particular bag. But they were below his neck. There was an injury on the back of his head, and there were blood marks. The clothes were given in a separate polythene bag. His shirt was soaked in blood from left shoulder to left wrist, but the family was informed that he died of cardiac arrest, and the family didn't have anything when Nupur told me this entire incident. So I told her that I need to investigate a lot into this because there is no document available, the Panchanama copy and the medical reports and so many other things. Because I mean, the family had, and the description entire had so many questions and apprehensions and doubts and suspicions that it was essential to investigate very deep and to get all the evidences to substantiate all the apprehensions and the questions and the doubts. So I said it will take time, but some of your family will have to speak on record, and it's not sufficient that only you speak to me because, and that too, it was an informal conversation. I wanted that also to be video recorded for just for a fact because video evidence is admissible in court. Audio evidence is not admissible in court. The notes that the reporter takes is not admissible in court. So I wanted all the interviews on video, and moreover, Nupur's account was 80% of the account was a hearsay account. Whatever she had heard from her aunt or her mother or her grandfathers. So the first-hand information was essentially of Anuradha, who saw the body, of father who saw the body, to whom the Judge Loya was used to speak frequently. Anuradha Biani was the one who was not only a doctor but also an advisor to Judge Loya about his health because he was extremely health conscious. And she said that this reason of cardiac arrest simply cannot be digested just because the family doesn't have cardiac history. His father is today 86, his mother is 81, and the family doesn't, and none of them have a cardiac history. Judge Loya himself had never suffered anything apart from a little acidity or cold and cough. He was a sportsman. He used to play table tennis for 2 hours every day for 28 years until the day of his death. Uh, then he was a teetotaler. He was not a smoker, not at all a smoker, not at all a drinker. So the family simply couldn't digest the reason that he died of a cardiac arrest. Moreover, as a doctor, she told me that if he slept at 12 in the night, and if according to the people, the people who were accompanying him, if he suffered chest pain at 4 o'clock in the midnight, it is simply impossible because his body had relaxed for 4 hours. The heartbeat rate and everything had calmed down actually. So there was no reason for a cardiac arrest at 4 o'clock in the morning. But that was her opinion. I needed documents to substantiate the apprehensions. So I thought that I'll visit Anuj Loya, who was 18-year-old at that time. And he was 16 when his father died. And somehow I had also managed to get an access to a letter that Anuj had written on 18 February 2015. His father died on the 1st December, early morning, and he had written it on 18 February 2015, in which he had said that today Chief Justice Mohit Shah visited our family 2.5 months after my father's death. I could see guilt written all over his face, and I asked him to appoint an investigation to probe into the death of my father, but he refused. If anything happens, I'm too young, I'm extremely helpless and powerless. I cannot do anything to those people. But if anything happens to me or any of my family member, Chief Justice Moitz, I will be responsible. That's what Anuj had written in the letter. And
The letter was
he had simply written a letter, and probably he took pictures of it and sent it to 5 of his aunts. And but I had not met Anuradha Biyani until, but I got it. And so I really wanted to meet this boy because he was 18 at that time. He was 16 when he wrote the letter, and I could feel that helplessness of a kid. And so I went to meet him in Pune, and he was sitting with his head down on the couch with his grandfather sitting on his right. And to start some conversation, I asked him, "What do you do?" And he didn't look up. He didn't raise his head. He didn't raise his eyes. And he just looked at his grandfather, and grandfather said that he's studying. So I asked him, "What are you studying?" Again, grandfather said that he's doing law. Again, I asked him, which college? Is it ILS Law College? Because that's a very reputed college in Pune. So I asked, is it ILS Law College? Again, grandfather said, no, some private college. So I asked him, grandfather, why Anuj is not speaking? I'm trying to talk to him. And I really wanted to try to talk to him because, I didn't want his interview as such on video, but I wanted essentially to give some moral strength to that kid who was feeling so helpless and just wanted to convey it to him that nobody, you are not alone. There will be the full society which will support you. But he was simply not talking and he was just not even looking at me. And his grandfather said that Anuj, doesn't trust a single individual in the entire world. He doesn't, he has no faith in any system, be it political system or judicial or even your journalism. So I asked him, why journalism? Why are you disappointed with journalism? And he said, no, because in the beginning we had a lot of expectation that some reporter will come and will try to uh, dig out and will try to find out the truth. Because so many reporters were writing about the case. And yes, every news organization has dedicated reporters who cover crime, who cover court. So, and they used to write about the court proceedings. So the family was expecting that some journalist will do it. And he said that, please don't expect anything. Please don't expect that Anuj will ever talk to you. So you please go. And I just could not digest that. I just, because I, for me, a 18-year-old boy should be full of positivity, energy, and hope. But this guy was, I just couldn't look at his face the way he was. So I got down and they live on third, fourth floor. So by coming down, I called my daughter and I told her that I just met a guy who is 1 year younger to you, and he says that he doesn't have trust and faith in his life. And how is this kid going to live without the two most essential ingredients to be alive? And so she asked me what happened, who is he, and all that. And I said, this is the thing. And she said, Baba, what can you do? You cannot create trust about judiciary or political system in his mind. What you can do is, at the most, you can try and create trust about your profession. And actually, that became a triggering point personally. Emotionally, I got triggered. And actually, I sat in auto rickshaw with my photographer. His name is Amay Mansabkar, and I told him that Amay, this is very true. Whatever my daughter has told me, and my daughter and her generation should believe in my profession. This is a profession from which I feed her. This is a profession from which I educate her, I teach her. And if she loses faith in me, if my daughter loses faith in me or in my profession, what right do I have to expect that Anuj should speak to me? There's no reason. I just cannot, I won't be able to give a reason. And so this generation has to believe in this profession. And then I immediately went to Nagpur and I kept trying, in fact, for that postmortem report and other medical reports. It took many months to get access to that because, I mean, as the entire bureaucracy, be it in the government medical college where the postmortem happened, or the private hospitals where he was taken to, or the police department, everything was, I mean, everybody was obstructionist, resisting. They were not ready to give away any information. The moment you utter those two words, Judge Loya, everything used to simply get closed up. There was so much. Even at the Ravi Bhavan, where he was staying, the entire record was tampered. There was no record of Judge Loya ever staying there. And there was an entry of Kulkarni, the person who had accompanied him, who was the registrar of Bombay High Court that time. And somebody said that probably all the three judges stayed in the same room. Now, it is impossible to believe. There were so many other suites which were vacant. In judiciary, protocols are very strictly followed. No senior judge ever stays with a junior judge. And here they were saying that a CBI special court judge, a sessions court judge, and a registrar were staying together in a room which was meant for two persons. So it was impossible to believe that. But I mean, this was, and the moment I got my hands on the postmortem report,
So you got it.
yeah,
You got it.
I mean, it was shocking. Just because the postmortem report said that the timing of the death, that person died at 6:15 in the morning on 1st of December. Now, the family had received calls at 5 and 5:30 in the morning that he died in the night, postmortem has happened, and the body has been sent to Gandhi. Now, the report mentions that it recorded the timing of death at 6:50. Then it recorded the cause of death as coronary artery insufficiency, which is essentially cardiac arrest. But the same postmortem report, while talking about other organs, mentioned that his lungs were congested, his liver was congested, his kidney was congested, and the dura, which is a layer on the brain, was also congested. And when I spoke to many medical experts, they said that in case of cardiac arrest, there is no reason for any of the other organ to get congested. It is only in case of poisoning that all the organs get congested, and it is only in case of an assault on head that the dura gets congested. And that corroborated what the family was saying, because the family had said that there was an injury on the back of his head, there were blood marks, the shirt was soaked in blood from left shoulder to left wrist, and so it was substantiating what, corroborating what the family had said. But still, that was not sufficient because also said that the viscera samples have been sent. There was another discrepancy, uh, which of course we came to know later. It mentioned that the upper limbs of the body, there were signs of rigor mortis in the upper limbs. And a forensic recommendation report is prepared right at the time when postmortem report is written. Because the same doctor writes that forensic recommendation report while taking out the viscera samples. So I started trying for that postmortem recommendation report. It again took a lot of time, but and when I got it, I got everything. I got postmortem recommendation report, forensic recommendation report, forensic report, histopathology report, and the viscera. And uh, postmortem recommendation report, it recorded that the entire body had signs of rigor mortis. Now it was a month of November, which is winter in Nagpur. And probably that is the reason why winter sessions of the state assembly are held in Nagpur in December and November. And that year, the winter session of the assembly was supposed to begin on the 7th of December. And he died on the 1st of December. It was winter, and it takes at least 12 hours for the rigor mortis to start appearing in the body. And moreover, it was winter. So, and according to the postmortem report, he died at 6:15 in the morning. His body was received at 10:50, and the postmortem started at 10:55. Within 5 minutes, postmortem began, which is also an exceptional thing. It's a government hospital, but it started within 5 minutes, and in 4 hours, it was extremely unlikely that the rigor mortis will start appearing in the body within 4 hours in winter, and that too in the early morning. So again, that was a big suspicion. Uh, but yes, the reports about the Duga and the congestion were corroborated in the histopathology report and other reports as well. So that was an undeniable evidence as such, and I thought that yes, this should get recognized by the judicial as an undeniable evidence to contradict the perception that he died of cardiac arrest. Then I interviewed his father, his Judge Loya's sister, another sister of Judge Loya. She also talked about the bribe offers and other things. And I did that story for the week on the 27th February 2017. I filed it on that. The week magazine. I was employed with the week magazine. And so the regular procedure started that the editors start asking you many queries. So our head office was in Kochi, so they were mailing me all the queries. I was replying to all the queries, and whatever they want, everything was on video. So it was undeniable. But they didn't. They stopped talking about this by June, and it was in November that they told me that the story will not be carried. In fact, it was discussed in one of our bureau meetings, and I was told that there is no story in whatever you have given. And as I said, I was personally committed to the story, emotionally committed to the story, because I wanted my next generation to believe in me and my profession. So I resigned on the 6th of November, and I started taking the story to various publications. And many publications I went to, but everybody refused. It was actually Vinod Jose, the editor-in-chief of Caravan, and Hartosh Singh Bal, the political editor of Caravan, who agreed to publish the story. And actually, when I saw the movie, the post, it was just like that. I was asked to come to Delhi. I reached Delhi with all the material, all the videos, and everything. And when I landed, I called him and I said that please send me an address. Where do I come? It was 8:30 in the morning. And he said, no address. I'll send you a WhatsApp location. And, and you reach there. So I went to the WhatsApp location. And he had already called. And that was the house of one of their associate editors who later quit from the cabin. But I was asked to go there. And Hartosh, Jose, uh, the associate editor. They are also called the photo editor, video editor. Everybody was there. And we started working at 10 o'clock in the morning. It went on till 11:30 in the night, and almost 13, 14 hours. The video transcription, the transcribing, because interviews were in Marathi, then subtitling it, everything. I mean, it went on.
But you'd already written the story, right?
I had already written. But
they
you see,
wanted-
what happened is the format in which we publish a story is entirely different, and
Okay.
so we essentially wanted to rewrite in the first person account form, because I also felt that yes, first person account essentially conveys to the reader that the author is owning the story. And in fact, we had discussion also that somebody said that an ordinary reader doesn't understand this, that he is owning the story. And my editor said that no, not the ordinary reader, but the people who have a vested interest, they do understand that the author is owning the story, and it means that he will substantiate every word whatever he is writing. He has that evidence, and probably that is the reason why the story was never challenged even once. I mean, if you remember, uh, Rohini had done a story in the Wire about Jay Amit Shah and his company, and 3 hours after Rohini's story got published, uh, Piyush Goyal addressed the first press conference within 3 hours, defending Jay Amit Shah. Through the day, 11 BJP ministers appeared on television screens to defend Jay Amit Shah. On the third day, Rohini and the Wire were prosecuted for 100 crore rupees of defamation. So, in this case, there was no press conference, there was no press release in the last 10 months.
Right. So why?
Did you try pitching your story to the Wire school?
I had,
And they didn't.
and
Did you say why?
no, the Wire informed me that they won't be doing it now because they were recently sued for the 100 crore. Hardly a week before.
So why do you think there wasn't defamation? Because they knew that you have the evidence.
Of course.
That's not.
Of course, and probably that is the reason why the government spent crores of rupees on the two topmost, the costliest lawyers in India, Harish Salve and Mukul Rohati. And they spent crores of rupees on them to not get the investigation order.
Yeah.
The story as such didn't have a single allegation. I mean, it was only raising questions. And I mean, if I decide to think, and any petty criminal could have probably killed him. That is also a possibility.
Right.
Because he was staying in a guest house, somebody came in the night with an intention of robbery, hit him on the head. It is possible. But even that idea was ruled out. And what the government said that there is nothing suspicious in the death. The simple logic, I'll say, I wrote the story that two judges took him to the hospital from the guest house. The Indian Express came with an extremely laughable rebut after 7 days that there were 3 other judges, Bhushan Gavai, Burde, and one more guy, who took Judge Loya in their car from Ravi Bhavan to Dande Hospital. Now there are 5 learned judges, 3 from Nagpur. The 5 learned judges took a cardiac patient to an orthopedic hospital. Dande Hospital is an orthopedic hospital. So he was taken to Dande Hospital first. From there, he was taken to a cardiac hospital where that hospital records that Judge Loya died 12 minutes before he was brought to the hospital. I mean, he was brought to the hospital at 6:27. The timing of the death is 6:15, as written by Medicine Hospital. But the bill of the same hospital says that there was a neurosurgery conducted. The bill also mentions the name and the qualifications of the doctor and the amount that was charged for that neurosurgery. Now, a patient with chest pain taken to an orthopedic hospital, then shifted to a cardiac hospital, during which he died on the way, and and a neurosurgery conducted on a dead body. And the government is saying that there is nothing suspicious.
And the family called it 5:30.
And family is called at 5:30 in the morning. But then it went to the Supreme Court. For the first time in the history of Indian judiciary, 4 Supreme Court judges, the senior most Supreme Court judges, came out openly on the 12th January 2018 and said that it was Judge Loya's case that triggered them, that made them come out and say
Yeah,
that
their life also on the line.
that the judiciary is under threat, the judicial independence is under threat. They said that democracy is under threat. They also said that the generations 20 years from now will never forgive us if we don't stand up and speak up today. So that it happened. But then the Supreme Court heard this public interest litigation. It transferred 3 public interest litigations filed in the Bombay High Court and the Nagpur bench to the Supreme Court for the first time. I mean, usually what happens is that whenever a petition is filed in the Supreme Court, and if the same petition is there in the lower court, Supreme Court says that go back to the lower court, and if you don't get justice, come back here. In this case, Supreme Court transferred petitions from the lower court to the higher court, and it heard those 4 petitions, 3 interventions it admitted. So 3 interventions, 3 petitions were heard by the Supreme Court for a period of 3 months without a single affidavit being filed. I mean, the Maharashtra government had ordered a discreet inquiry on the 23rd of November.
What is that?
They never explained it in the bill. They only said that it is a discreet inquiry. Now, that discreet inquiry, after this discreet inquiry, the report was filed, and the report was also submitted to the Supreme Court. And that report consists of letters written by 2-3 judges of the lower court, of the district courts, letters written to the state officer, that they took Judge Loya in their car from Ravi Bhavan to Dande Hospital. Then there were statements of 4 relatives of Judge Loya. And I shouldn't say statements, letters. And the investigating officer wrote a letter. Now, these 4 members of the relatives of the family live in 3 different districts. The 4 lower court judges who gave the letters live in 3 different cities. The investigating officer was in Mumbai, the 7th district. But this entire discreet inquiry got completed in 4 days. From 8 districts, it got finished in 4 days, and all the letters are written to a particular officer's name. So those letters were submitted to the court. So the petitioner and the interveners requested the court to ask those individuals to file affidavits, because according to the rules of business of the Supreme Court, whatever you have to say to the court, you have to say it on an affidavit. But the Supreme Court did not order them to file an affidavit. And without a single affidavit being filed, it was heard for 3 months. Supreme Court itself had transferred all the lower court cases. Supreme Court itself has a discretion whether to admit a public interest litigation or not, and it had admitted a public interest litigation. It had allowed 3 interventions, and after hearing it for 3 months, in the 114-page order, it dismissed petition on 2 grounds, saying that the motives of the petitioner seem to be politically inspired.
The former the top court lawyer.
And it completely ignored the merits of the petition, but gave importance to the alleged motive of the petitioner. And it said that the statements of the lower court judges cannot be questioned because it shows entire lower judiciary in bad light. Now, the decisions of the lower court can be challenged in the higher court.
Always.
But merely statements cannot be questioned. And statements which are not even affidavits. But that happened. And it dismissed those petitions. Now Gogoi is, the Chief Justice then, Deepak Mishra, retired on a very auspicious day of Gandhi Jayanti
Select.
yesterday in India.
Yeah.
And Gogoi will be sworn in as the new Chief Justice tomorrow. And Gogoi was one of those 4 judges. So I hope that review petition can be filed, curative petition can be filed. But we have seen the judiciary finding its fine very occasionally and rarely. So I hope that it will happen again. And like he said on the 12th January 2018, he will find it. He will find the moral grounds to do it, the legal grounds to do it, and he will reopen. He can reopen the whole matter. The new Chief Justice. Yeah.
But Justice Chandrachud.
But there is one more thing. But the retired Chief Justice Deepak Mishra will now become the first Lokpal of India.
Oh, shoot. I thought it was a joke.
Somebody was saying that you don't accept any public position
I
of
thought it was a
retirement.
baby.
There's a news.
No. See, when Narendra Modi says that Ganpati is an example of plastic surgery and the knowledge of that medical science available with ancient India, we think that it is a joke. It is very serious for us.
No, I really thought people were sharing the fact that it was a joke that we did.
No, it is everything what they do is very serious for them because they now want to kill your scientific rationale. They do not want people to think scientifically. And a jacketed mindset submits and surrenders to an authoritarian regimes. And just to jacket your way of thinking, your rationale, these things have been said repeatedly. For example, cow dung blocks the nuclear radiations,
Yeah, that's
or there are traces of gold in cow urine.
And now you're saying.
Such pearls of wisdom and knowledge.
If you question their answer is Mahatma Gandhi.
When you question, say, for example, I
Pakistan.
had written on the Facebook when he talked about that plastic surgery. I said if that ancient knowledge of the plastic surgery knowledge was available in the ancient India, why didn't he put the head of a human being instead of an elephant?
yeah.
And that is more logical.
That you're using much.
But when you question this, they say you are anti-religion, anti-Hindu, go to Pakistan.
Go to Pakistan.
As if Pakistan is also their property and India is also their property. So they ask you to move from here to there.
They can put the same head back. Why bring elephants?
Ah,
What happened to that postmortem report? The court did not take that into account.
Nothing. Not only postmortem, histopathology report,
How-
viscera report, forensic report, the records of the Ravi Bhavan, and every document was submitted by the interveners, not even the petitioners. But this is how and this is what India has come to. It's an extremely sorry state. Today Amit Shah talks about banishing and expelling people who do not have their names in the voter list in Assam. When I was saying that entire historical work of preparation of the first electoral roll that happened in 47, there was huge migration of Hindus, Bengali speaking Hindus from East Pakistan into Assam. In millions it was. The migration was in millions. And the Reform Commissioner of Assam had issued a circular to his officers that do not enroll the names of these Bangla speaking Hindus in the electoral rolls in Assam because they will convert Assam into a Bangistan. And to that, B.R.Ambedkar had called those officers and reprimanded him. And you cannot simply treat them like this. And the electoral roll had demanded that there should be a domicile of 180 days. Now, what to do about the migrants, right? The refugees, the people who had migrated from East and West Pakistan in millions there. And there was also internal migration happening from Hyderabad to other places, from Junagadh, from Hyderabad, from Mysore. And that time, Dr. Ambedkar had given an instruction to all the officials that just simply take an undertaking from everybody that they want to spend their rest of their life in India. That's it. That is their domicile. And take their address in the refugee camp that they are living as their address to enroll them in the voters list. And today this government is bent upon expelling people who do not have names in the voter list. And people who have served Indian Army for 35 years. There are people who have served in the government departments for 35 years. They are suspecting them just because they belong to a different religion. I mean, everybody, most of my friends in media, in journalism, in Mumbai, completely stopped talking to me, chatting with me, or calling me. I had the maximum number of friends in Bombay. Simply because your phone is getting tapped, and if we call you, our phone will also be tapped, and we will also come under surveillance. What is this? Isn't it a journalist's responsibility to tell the truth and shame the devil? I think it is the most important responsibility of any journalist to tell the truth and shame the devil. People are so scared.
Aren't you scared? You're doing these things.
I don't know. I mean, actually, this never came across in my mind, and I believe in whatever has to happen will happen. I cannot control it. There is no God who will control it. If there is a God to control it, why didn't he stop Sohrabuddin getting killed?
Or Judge Loya.
Or Judge Loya?